Hello, I'm Gareth Cottrell and I'm joined by the band Daughters of Davis.
Yay.
And we are here yet again for the Not Playing the Game podcast.
Yes. In this series, we're taking a step back to question some of the things that we get fed in society. Sure, some of them are helpful, but some of them are just not right.
Right. We are constantly bombarded with ideas about how we should look and how we should act. It's so frustrating. There is so many perfect ideals out there. And, you know, comparing ourselves to them, it can make us feel inadequate or pressurised to change. And, you know, this can affect our money, our status, our appearances. They just can really impact us in so many ways.
Yeah, but we believe, as we see in the Bible, you haven't just got to take in what's sold to you. You know, you can just see, like, each and every person has worth and value no matter what. And you don't have to, like, compete with each other or fit that media mould to find this.
You can just say, I'm not playing the
There
game.
we go.
And we also come bearing props.
Oh,
Would you like to
as
explain this one no expense spared prop that we've got?
It's just the whistle.
The whistle.
The not
The
playing the
whistle
game
of truth.
whistle, which is going to just halt and abolish anything we blow the whistle on, which is like, if this is a fact or a kind of thing in life that we just find frustrating, we're going to unanimously decide that it needs to be blown the whistle on. Wait, the whistle needs to be blown on it.
There we go.
Now,
Got it.
have you been practicing this?
I have been practicing speaking.
Okay.
But I should have. Adrian actually has
Yes.
been practicing.
Right.
I'm not very good at it. I've tried the whole series to like get better, but it's not really happening.
It looks so professional and yet sounds so amateurish,
No.
doesn't it?
It's definitely blame me on that. Should we give it another
Let's
go?
get a little
Go on,
sample.
give it.
Oh, two. Still, it's not 100% there. By the end, I'll get it.
What we
Hopefully.
need for series 2, if there is a series 2, is an air horn, maybe. I was thinking, a
Yeah.
really loud air horn. Just press it and away we go.
I'm sure the listeners would love that.
And so
There it
today, we're going to be talking a little bit about relationships
Yeah.
and not playing the game of happily ever after.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Like films, when you think about it, we were just talking about this earlier. Just why do we always see? Well, we always see a certain thing like people in the relationship. They get to the relationship, but you don't actually see after that. Like what
none of the
happens.
struggles, none of the bins going out, you know, and the kind of like the hassle of like arguing about who left the toilet seat up and stuff. You know, none of that's in it. It's
Are
just
you
the
talking
gossip.
from experience here?
I am not talking from right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, obviously my husband doesn't leave the toilet seat up. But, you know, like real life and what we see in films is just a really polished, quite a superficial version of what real relationships are actually like.
Have you ever seen a film where it is real life, almost, where they meet how normal couples meet and then they're tired the next day because the kids have kept them up? One's got food poisoning and it's true to life. I've never seen one, ever.
No, I don't think people would want to watch that. I guess, maybe just bore them. They just think this is like, you know, they want to attain to something, I guess, that is impossible so that we can feel dissatisfied because we love to feel dissatisfied.
But Adrian, am I right in thinking that we all like a good rom-com? Well, I say we all. I don't.
Yeah.
But do you?
No, but this is the funny thing. I think it's quite controversial to talk about rom-coms. Like everyone seems to have a view on it. I've actually never been a massive fan.
I like them.
Yeah, Fern does. She
I'm
tries to
a
make me
big
watch them.
romantic. Yeah. I mean, The Notebook ruined me, to be honest. I watched The Notebook and then I just wanted to become Ali from the film, the female lead.
She actually made dresses from this film.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I couldn't
A big
find
fan then.
the exact dresses. So I decided I just made them by hand. And I ended up wearing all the dresses, floating around feeling like I was Ali. And I just, I completely got confused about what real love was because, in that film, it's like, it seems like she's so beautiful and it seems like this is all about true love. And it's actually like kind of steeped in cheating and like, sort of like unfaithfulness and pride. And like that seems to be in it loads. But I didn't mind that. I just put that aside. Just like if I wear the pretty dresses, this would be like true love. And then, I missed the real point of that film, which like the loveliness in it. Later, hopefully this won't be any spoilers, is like there's like a real gritty moment of caring through someone through illness, and like that part kind of passed me by. But that is the true part of that, I guess, the film that was so nice. And I just wanted to like, I just saw it superficially and I wanted to become Ali. It took me a while to shake that and stop wearing those outfits.
That's what you like, Fern, about rom-coms. But
right.
Adrienne, you're the opposite. You don't really like them, a bit like me.
Yeah, I just think stuff never happens like that. So I'm just like, oh, this is a bit rubbish. Like you see it and then you're like,
Cynical.
what? Yeah, maybe that's a bit cynical. Fern like aspires to be like the person in the film, and I'm not even going to bother trying.
See, I find it difficult watching a film and not critiquing it, because if I know about that topic, I'm like, well, that's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. My wife is a midwife, and she's the worst person to watch anything about birth with.
Oh, right.
If there's a birthing scene in a film, a TV programme, she's there saying, well, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. So for me, with rom-coms, and I try my very best to avoid these because I just find myself getting agitated, right, in fact, really worked up.
Yeah.
So
You actually told me you watched one last night.
that was a secret. You don't want to say that. I watched it by an accident. So I walked in the living room after sorting the kitchen out, and it was there. And I had that option of I can either bleach the kitchen floor for a second time, or I can watch the film.
Yeah.
It was a close call, I'll be honest with you. I was there thinking we could just have a really nice, clean kitchen floor.
Yeah.
I sat there and watched it. It was so memorable. I can't remember the name of it, but you probably can because we spoke about it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think it's this about time film. I think that's what you were alluding to, because there's that guy goes in a wardrobe and clenches his fist, goes back in time. Yeah,
It's
that one.
It's strange. Now, I would say don't wreck it for me because I've only seen half, but I don't really care. So if you do want to tell me what happens in it, it will save me having to watch the rest of it.
Well, I love that particular film.
Right.
In fact, me and my husband went on a date early on and I saw that film. And I was like, this is a good rom-com. It kind of like, I'm going to get really into it. It talks about like him reliving life and not missing the moment, because like he basically learns. I'm totally going to spoil this film for
It's
people.
fine. I don't.
Sorry,
go on.
people.
Go for it.
Turn off if you're listening and you want to watch this film. No, and then turn back on again. But it's like, he realises he lives life twice, and he realises every time he wants to like experience a moment, he does it the first time, makes all the mistakes that you might make. The second time, he just takes in the moment much more. And I was like, do you know what? That's a good advice for a relationship, because in all the stresses and strains that come and go, you can actually sometimes forget that this is the person you love and you chose to be with them, and you don't let moments pass you by. I thought that's nice.
But he can obviously go back. We can't. That's the problem. So enjoy
Magic
every
wardrobe.
minute
Yes,
as it happens. So I want to ask you, do you think that there are standards or expectations of what relationships should look like? Now, on previous episodes, we've spoken about social media and what people portray themselves to be on social media. What do we reckon about relationships? Is there a perfect relationship?
Yeah.
I think we're like kind of really fed a red herring with like relationships on like through like social media and films and things. Although I like good rom-com, I actually think that sometimes it can just really lead us astray, because especially with like social media and this consumerist society we live in, like everything is like now fast paced, and everything comes at us when we want it. And that's not really how like love works, but it kind of gets sold to us in that way.
Yeah. You just get this idea that basically you're gonna fall in love instantly, and then that love is enough to just like make everything perfect, and the relationship's gonna be perfect, and it's just gonna like there's no twist or turns. It's like sometimes as well, you can meet someone and it can take a while for the relationship to develop.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people who have said their partners, when they actually first met them, they didn't think they were the one. Yeah. And this whole idea of the one as well is an interesting thing. But I don't know,
So I had
lots
this.
of points.
Me and my wife met, and I thought she was great. She said, and I mentioned this on the wedding day in my speech. She said that at first she thought my head was too big and I spoke too much. And I've never let her live that down. I thought, she's all right, yeah.
I think your head is a perfect size.
Thank you very much. Do I talk too much?
No,
and perfect for a presenter.
Yeah,
Okay. But
Giving you a
it
job.
is true that sometimes it can take a bit longer to almost find that person, I wouldn't say attractive, but find them, Help me out here, girls. I need a word.
Yeah, attractive. Go for it.
Yeah, okay. Attractive.
word.
I'll go for that. I've put it out there and I've said it. So for you two, we'll go to Fern first.
Okay.
What was it like when you met your husband for the first time? So you've been married for 4 years?
Almost, yeah.
What was it like? Was it, this bloke is the one for me, he's perfect. I'm going to marry him right now, in fact.
Well, because I'm just like the big romantic, I was like expecting to meet, my future husband like a Romeo and Juliet film, the Baz Luhrmann version, where their eyes meet through a fish tank and they're like, oh, it's like perfect love at first sight. And I just wanted that romantic story, and I loved all that. But in reality, like, I just really struggled finding a guy that I like wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Had some previous relationships that didn't work out, and I just felt like, okay, I'm just going to have to, screw it, I'm going to go on a Christian dating site. And I thought, this is so not part of the story, there's nothing romantic about, I typed my profile and I put it up and, I press send and, none of that felt romantic to me at all. But I just thought, I don't think there is the one out there. There can't be one person in this whole universe that I'm supposed to marry. But I know I want to be like proactive in trying to find them. The person, like a person I think is going to be a suitable match, which sounds not romantic, but I actually think it's important to think about those things because I had some previous relationships who weren't suitable.
And for you, how much of it was sort of ticking the right boxes? So thinking, right, I find him attractive. Mm-hmm. He's educated. He's got this, he's got that.
Tie shoelaces, can speak to him.
How much of it was about the looks and how much of it was about the person and thinking, actually, this is a sensible human being that I can buy a house with, I can get married to and have children with eventually? Yeah,
I got so depressed about romance, I just thought, if I can just, achieve the things in life that I want to achieve. No, it wasn't like that, I was attracted to him when I saw his profile picture and read his profile. I was like, this man just seems like, well, we have so much in common and he's definitely good looking. And it matters to you, obviously.
But that is the thing with Christian dating, yeah. I was just thinking how, what's quite difficult is if you're out and you meet someone, if you're looking for someone that has faith and depends on what the things that are important to you. For me and Fern, it was, faith was really important, but also, you want to match in lots of ways. So if you meet someone, you find out they're Christian, and I think great. And then you start like talking and you're trying to find out if you've got common ground. Obviously, if you're attracted to them too, but it could be then suddenly something comes up where they want to travel the world and you don't, or you want to travel the world and they don't. Is that yeah? So basically, you just kind of if you go on the dating sites, at least so you can look at profiles and get an idea of the future plans and things. So you can almost it helps you to find a match in a way in that sense.
For me, like romance
can be a useful thing to use.
Kind of came afterwards as well.
Yes.
Once we actually met, it was just facilitated. It's the modern way, I guess, that happened us to meet.
Often the looks and just going for the looks, it can be dangerous, can't it? Yeah. Because a lot of beautiful people haven't got the best personalities.
True.
And it can be difficult because looks will fade.
Yeah.
So over time, you may have married this absolute hunk, this supermodel, and then you reach the age of 50 or 60 and think, well, okay, the looks have gone and they've got no personality whatsoever. We don't have anything in common. Yeah. I wanted children, he didn't. Yeah. We haven't ever had children. It's always been friction there. It's been difficult. So it's almost like, so for me, I've always seen it as, have you played the video game The Sims?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, you can create a character and you can say, right, I want 30% personality. I want 10% they're good at art and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's almost a good representation of what you should maybe be looking for in a future partner, do you think?
Yeah, like making sure that you've got the balance, that, of course you want to be attracted to them, but just making sure that you find someone that you're compatible with, that you can have things you share in common.
I was just thinking there's that quote, isn't there, about how it's not about just finding someone it's not about staring in their eyes, but finding someone you can look ahead to. I don't think I said that quote very good, is it?
Well, I think it's something like, it's not just about staring into each other's eyes.
Near enough.
You know what I mean, though? You know that quote.
Staring ahead, together.
It's about having someone you can journey with too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And be on the path with them.
Well
It's not just... That's the thing about films, though. It's very much focused on just the relationship. And relationship, obviously, is really important. But you've also got a life to do. You've got things to do in this world.
And when you have kids, keeping you up and then waking you up at 4 a.m. You're exhausted. The looks don't really matter.
It doesn't know.
So you're listening to Not Playing the Game, and we're joined by the band Daughters of Davis, and I'm Gareth Cottrell, and I want to move on now to what should we be looking for in a healthy relationship?
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about just how obviously everything seems to be like sold to us as like fast and consumerism and like fast paced in that sense. And, you know, some things take time. Like I love growing, me and my husband like growing vegetables now, and we sound like we're prematurely aged, even though we're young people. But some people grow vegetables when
It's
they're
the
young.
small things in life, isn't it, Fern?
But do you know what has been amazing about that is knowing that some things take time and there's things in seasons, and waiting for that beetroot to fully, you know, grow to the right size before you can pick it. You know, I actually really value waiting for things, and I think our society maybe isn't promoting that. It's saying that, you know, like Tinder dating, you know, just next type thing. And I think that's not that. It's not that good, because, you know, do you just go on looks alone and then miss the personality because you're trying to go so quick with everything, you know? And I think what you were saying is really valid about, like, you know, how much of the personality you're looking at compared to how they look.
I think that there has to be attraction there, but you have to be careful that you don't put too much emphasis on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Or else you could end up in trouble in the future.
I realised I didn't answer your question. I think I just talked about vegetables.
It's okay. Completely ignore me, Fern. It's fine.
Could you ask it?
So, basically, I want to know, so your husbands, do they do the same sort of work, and are they in the same industry as you are-ish?
Well,
and if that is the case, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And we'll go, first of all, which one should we go for?
should we let Adrian talk?
Adrian.
Yeah, I think whether it's the same field, the most important thing is that you're supportive of what each other does, and you can sort of make that work. Because I think, obviously, like we just said as well, life isn't just about that one relationship. It's about so much more, and your journey and the family. Like there's the future stuff around that. If you want to have children, and you know, there's lots of other things. So yeah. For me, so my husband was in the police and now is training to be a Methodist minister. So
okay,
yeah,
interesting turn.
Yeah, he's it's amazing because he's always just had such a heart for like, I don't know, in any job he brings that out, like his heart for people. And I think we match in that, and that's a good match. But it's not necessarily, we don't do the same job, obviously.
So I haven't asked how you met your husband.
Yeah, it's a funny story, actually.
What was that
like? It's so funny because I used to rip Fern about going on online dating, and that is where I met my husband too.
Oh, right, okay.
She seriously ribbed me for weeks.
Right.
I set up my profile and she's like, I can't believe you're going on a dating site. And it was just like, you know.
2 weeks later,
yeah.
she's on the same one.
I literally was like, when Fern, you're actually going to meet the guy, he's probably not who you've been talking to. And when you first do your video call, I'm going to like appear in the background and do like Egyptian moves and try and put you off like in the background somewhere.
Good sister, right?
Yeah,
she's really got my back.
And I said he's probably going to have like
some squawky voice
or something. And I was just winding her up big time.
He looked like my ideal kind of guy, and she was just like, you know, he doesn't look like that. He's some middle-aged man, you know, in some basement talking to you. And I was like, I did get a bit scared when I first video called him. I was like, off you are who you are.
And I stayed out of the room. So don't worry.
Thank you. Yeah, but my boyfriend, my husband, is an artist. So he is in the field of arts, and he. I think he is very, very similar to what we both do.
Okay.
So he does portraits, and he's an amazing oil painter, and he's really supportive. But he also plays bass in our band, so that's kind of convenient.
Right.
Yes.
So, is there ever any friction, both being musicians? Because I've always thought, so my wife, thankfully, is in a completely different industry.
Yes.
If she worked in radio as well, I don't think the front door could fit our heads through. But we wouldn't have much to talk about. I don't think, because work would be our whole life as well. So thankfully, she can almost educate me on her career, and I can try my best to educate her on mine.
Yeah.
And it works that way. But is there ever any friction in there, thinking, well, are they a better musician than me?
No, I don't really think, to be honest, I actually enjoy the fact that we can just really share, talk about things deeply, and I respect his opinion on things, and ask for his advice on a lot of things too. And he's really creative. So No, I think that's just been really nice, really.
Because we're also really good friends, and I'm like, it's really cool to have him in the band. I was like, Fern, you've just married like me, your best friend as well.
I know. It's funny because we're so close. Some people, I feel like they're very similar. I was like, I hope I haven't married the equivalent of Adrienne, but in a man. That's really weird. I don't mean it
a
like
man
that.
sister.
Oh no, they are very different as well. I dug a hole. Can we go on? Next question.
You're listening to the Not Playing the Game podcast, and we've spoke about couples, we've spoke about marriage, about how we met our future spouses, but we're going to be talking next with our guest who's called Faith, all about singleness. You're listening to the Not Playing the Game podcast with the band Daughters of Davis, and we've spoke a bit about relationships, in fact, quite a lot about relationships, and now we're going to talk about the other angle of it, singleness and being single, and we've got, what a great name. Yes. Our guest is Faith Dorr, a daughter Faith. She's here with us to tell us all about her life and her story as well. So, your book is called The Process, Living the Singleness.
Yeah, living the single journey.
The single journey.
Yes, as it happens.
So tell us about this. Are you single now?
Yes.
Right. And why did you decide to write a book about being single?
I feel like it was needed in this time. I feel growing up in general, I've come from a very, very Pentecostal background. So relationships wasn't really, talked about. You always went with the whole see how it goes. And if you see someone, you don't know how to react. If you were interested, it was like, don't go there. No. And you just happen to be married. How is that possible? Like the journey was not explained. It was just thou shalt not do this and that. So like now, because I'm around a few singles and many of them are like, I would love to be married. Where is he? Where is she? And stuff like that. But when it's not there, what happens? So I think as a single person, there was not really any books or any information out there to say, okay, singles, how are you doing? Like, what are you going through? And is it easy? Is it not easy? Like, what's your process? And I was just telling the girls earlier that it's funny because I didn't know what the title was going to be. And I had to pray. I was like, Lord, please, like, what am I talking about? And it literally was the process of being single. It's like, what do we endure? So I talk about things like baggages. I talk about the struggles of being alone, feeling alone, peer pressures, other people's perspectives. You go to weddings, you go to events, and you have this initial mindset of, is he here? Oh, is it the one that's looking at me? Could it be like you become this paranoia person, like because you're so, I guess you could call it desperate to become married. But really and truly, does desperation need to be there? Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be like that. So I felt like, I really felt that it was well needed right now.
Oh, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Is it because there's that pressure on like single people because, it's sort of like when you finally find the partner, then you'll be happy. Do you think it's like, I feel like when I was single, it was like some of the pressure I put myself was like, I'll be happy then.
Yeah.
I
think you make a very, very good point because I feel like prior to the whole being married, it's always seen as until you get married, you can go on this amazing holiday. Until you get married, you can do this, you can do that. So they've made it seem like until you're married, there's more to life than this. Whereas when you're single, it's like, there's still more to life than this.
Yeah.
It's just that, are we blinded to see it because we're being so caught up with the whole notion of you have to be married at this age and this time. If you don't, nothing's going to happen for you. And it's like, wait a minute.
Adrienne, do you think that you were happier being single or happier now? So most people think, as Faith said, that if we find that partner, it will almost give us that real happiness and that longing will be fulfilled. Have you changed? Do you feel happier now or do you feel the same?
I think that for me, I I was actually really happy being single too. I actually really had a fulfilled life in following music, and my relationship with God, like following that walk really was, I was happy. I think for me, I always did struggle a bit with loneliness, like in terms of but that wasn't really to do with actually being alone. It's just that I think I found it hard to let people in. So I think what's nice about being married is you meet someone that you can, you sort of over time you let in more and more, and that kind of, I think you start to go on this journey of letting that love in, and I think you can go on that journey on yourself, and that can happen with friends and as well as romantically a partner. I think really it's just going on that journey of really finding acceptance within yourself and just letting yourself be loved, I guess.
I would say for me that it was like I wanted to have a husband. I thought happiness was in finally finding the person I wanted to marry, and there was so much happiness in actually finding that. It did bring me loads of happiness, but not actually having my relationship right with God before or after was what actually upset me maybe the most, because I felt really like loved by my husband because he's a wonderful man, but there's still there's a huge part of me that won't be fulfilled unless I've got my like relationship right with God. And you can have the same issues and problems that you have for single also being married, because you haven't sorted that stuff out. And so it's like you can get a tick and say, I've got the marriage thing sorted, and it's a lovely thing in my life. But there's so much I need to sort out if I'm not really walking right with God.
Yeah, I was just going to say the other thing to that though is that also it doesn't matter how much someone loves you, you can still struggle to believe them. You almost think, actually, I don't know if that's out there, but once you get a partner, they'll love you and they'll make up for how you feel about yourself. Actually, I still kind of have the same insecurities. It's about me working through them. As much as someone tells you you look fine a certain way or something you're okay in whatever way. You have to find that yourself. Sure.
And one thing I was talking to Adrian about the other day was that one thing you can do to like really ruin a relationship is try to get everything from that person, that partner. You suck them dry if you're like that with them, and you probably ruin the relationship, because no one person can fully complete you. In fact, that's kind of, you'd need to be a God to be able to fully complete a person, and luckily there is God and he can fully complete us and is willing. And but you want to bring yourself as full as you can, as whole as you can through to a relationship, then to bring, because the expression the other half, I don't really agree with that, because it's actually two wholes coming together, the best way to have a good relationship.
What do we think about church culture in regards to dating? Is church where we should be looking for our future partners, or is it too close to home sometimes in a church?
It just never really helped me personally, because the churches I went to, I didn't find the right guy there. So
it does depend on what church you could go to though as well. If I think one of the churches we were at, where we were on the road, actually, we would often just go to any church wherever we were on that Sunday. But the church actually in the base that we were at, for where we took off from, there was actually not that many young people there, so it's difficult. Actually, I think there was a couple of young people, and
they were all married.
But they were married. There was two couples. 4 people were young, and they were both married couples. So then, what do you do then?
And Faith, so you being single, are you fed up of always having at church people going, "Oh, he's single, Faith. Go and talk to him. He might be the one."
I find it. I don't know. It's kind of awkward, but at the same time, it's like, what do you do? What do you do with that? Because no matter what, I know for a fact that I would want someone of the faith to share the same belief, no matter what. But I feel like even in church at the same time, even though you're going to church, it doesn't mean that you have that relationship with God to that certain level, even though you hope that they do. So it's always very tricky, because like I said, I remember the previous church I was going to, they used to have a statistic saying there's like 1 guy to 5 women. So are we, as 5 women, single women, battling for this one guy? And can you imagine how the guy feels like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Which one of the 5 do I take? So
he'd enjoy it. I imagine.
But like, just in that, it's almost like then forcing a competitive spirit, forcing that against all of the sisters in Christ against the one brother in Christ.
Have you ever tried, because it seems to have been successful for these two, online dating? Or again, is that a thing of, actually, I'm sick of people saying I should go and do that as well. I want to be left alone.
Do you know what I feel like? And this is the point of the book as well, is that I feel like I've exhausted, like everything. So I feel like with the online dating, I'm not against it because I know people that have been married as well, which is amazing. But I feel like whether it's for me, I don't know. I really don't know. But who knows? It could be. I might just get the courage again to go back. You'll see in the book, I was like, yeah, I went on it, came off it. Yeah, I went on it, came off it.
Shall we now sign her up here on the podcast?
We'll
Do it for her.
Okay, let's do profile.
So,
She's beautiful. She's got great
You're
hair.
listening to the Not Playing the Game podcast, and we're joined by the band Daughters of Davis and as well Faith Dorr, who is here to tell us all about being single and how it's not a negative thing.
No.
Oh, yeah.
That's what society in particular and churches are guilty of. You're going for the whistle.
I'm picking the whistle up.
Because they seem to think, right, well, this person needs to be married off. They need to find this partner. And maybe actually they don't want to.
Exactly. There is. I would like to blow the whistle on this because
Okay.
It's not really fair to pressurise people, you know, and just let people do their own thing. And if they want to find someone, you know, they'll do that in their own time. Like for me, you just having these awkward conversations all the time. You know, met anyone yet? No, still not. It's like, you know, you feel like you should follow that up with, you know, maybe it's the fact my skin's a bit spotty and my hair's a bit thin. You know, or you know, feel like you should justify yourself why you haven't got a partner yet. And it feels like it's those that in the relationship are the ones that got picked and they're the worthy ones, and those that aren't. And you get that vibe, and that really annoys me. And do you know what? Everyone has worth, and it's just being in a relationship or being married doesn't give you more worth. And I actually felt like that for a while, and I definitely want to blow the whistle on it because it sucks.
You go for it.
Bringing it. Yeah. Oh, another rubbish whistle. I'm so sorry. It's
We
so,
need an
it's
air
like a
horn.
wet- It's like a damn squib.
Horn, yeah.
Should
not
we go
playing the game.
for an air horn or a vuvuzela?
I'd love a vuvuzela. Can someone bring a vuvuzela? Betty? No, she doesn't do much, does she? I've called that mannequin Betty. That's why.
Why?
But just, I had to give it a name. I felt inappropriate just, you know, when I shook his hand.
Same name as my daughter.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, moving on.
Sorry to get a really weird situation.
So Faith, how do we be single well? How do we do this properly and not just sit there feeling sorry for ourselves or get angry at the people who keep on asking us, why are you still single?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is to know that you're human. Know that you're going to have feelings, know that you're going to have emotions, and know that it's okay to have those feelings as well. Because I think sometimes it's cast down and then people's perspectives change completely, because then, like you were saying, Fern, that you break it down now to, oh, is it my worth? Is it me? I'm not good enough, etc. And then secondly is to know that you have that desire. So like myself, I have the desire to be married. So that's okay. Whereas there's others who do not.
Yeah.
But it's also to remember that God is ever present. So many times, like, you feel like you're alone or going through it alone. But many times in my book, I referenced the fact that I bugged God. I constantly bugged him. I prayed every time. I said, why is this happening? Why is this not happening? I'm like, can't you see you're all powerful, proclaiming his promises and everything, you know? But it's given me that outlet to write to or to pray to or to speak to. And I feel like when you include God in your singleness, I feel like another chapter opens, because then you realize, okay, I'm getting content and I can press on forward as to what is it that I need to do for my career? What is it that I need to do in my job, with my house? What is it as a woman that I need to do to be that good wife, to be that mother? So including God in that has enabled me to be like, okay, so right now I might not be dating, I might not be married, but at least I'm working on myself to be the better version of me for what's to come. Versus, oh my gosh, I can't do nothing, I can't see nothing, I don't want to go out. And I remember when I was younger, I always had to have someone to go to the shop with or to go to the movies with. Now I'm like, I'm gone. Like, I'm watching that movie, or I'm like, God, come with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you break the barriers of you are alone, no one wants you, and you're by yourself. So I feel like to do singleness well, you have to embrace where you're at onto where you're going.
And is there ever a thought there that maybe it's not in God's plan that you have a husband?
It did come to mind, and I had to pray that the really hardest prayer. God, if he's not for me, if it's not your will, then I'll be okay with that. That was the hardest prayer to pray, because when you become real like that, you don't know what God might say. It might be like, yeah, actually, legit, it's not for you. Whereas through my studying and understanding, I realized if I have the desire to be married, then I will be married. Versus I know others who may not want to get married or not have children. That's completely different. So I always feel like you have to get to that point as well, where you say, if it doesn't happen, am I going to be okay? Or is all hope gone completely? You know? And I feel like it is more about saying, God, what do you want for my life versus what does everybody else want? Because my dad passed away a year ago now. And at first I was like, look, I want my dad to walk me down the aisle. I want my mum to see her grandchildren and stuff. But then it got to a point where I had to say, okay, God, what do you want for me right now? I could force myself into a relationship. Anyone can be in a relationship right now. But whether it will be right is the thing. And the rightness is, what is God saying to me in this season? Does he want me to stand still, read more, and have a more intimate relationship with him, so that when you do get married, then you know that either way, you know, if you go through struggles, okay, fine, I can pray to God, I can lean on him, versus I don't know who God is. Like you were saying, you know, you can get into marriage, but you have no idea what is ahead of you. But if you know you have that foundation with Christ, you know that no matter what comes up, I can pray to God. No matter what comes up, I can, you know, share that encouraging word, that promise from God to uplift us as a family, as a single person, etc. So yeah.
Can I just ask something? Because this is something I've been thinking about. Is so with the mindset to be single, and you're choosing to be single, is there a part of you that goes, so I'm not going to look for a guy, and the guy has to just come to me and appear? Because for a long time when I was single, I thought the thing was just let God make it happen, because then I'll know it's definitely right. But then me and Fern had this debate for a long time where Fern was saying, you know, you've got to be active and go out and actually look for this guy. And that's why I was against a Christian online dating, because I thought, oh, that's too active. That's me putting myself out there, you know, in that way. So I don't know, what's your view on that? Like,
I think I was a bit the same as well. So at first I was very active. If I saw someone I was interested in, I would just say, look, here's my number. I would actually say, I like you. What about you? But the response was always, no, sorry, I'm dating someone else. So then after a while, I did the online dating, I did all of that. But then I realized there's nothing more that I can do actively. So I don't, you know how they say, don't just sit in your house and wait for God to just, he's going to knock on your door. So I feel like for me, I've had that whole, I've been proactive, but then it's got to a point where I feel like I'm forced to stand still now and just wait for the moment to happen.
You've got like delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And sometimes just getting busy with what God wants you to do is in those places you ended up meeting them too. You know, I don't know if I would have actually crossed paths with my husband. He lived in Northern Ireland, and he was painting in a studio for a large amount of his time. But I'm so for me, it worked meeting him. But you know, plenty of people I know have met their partners just doing their thing for God, and it's nice hearing that, because it's like, you know, they would put in God first. And I suppose you can't say that I wasn't putting God first going on a Christian dating site. And maybe I struggled a bit with the fact that, you know, there's that bit in the Bible where Paul says, if you can be single, then be single. I was like, whoa, well, is that the holiest thing you can do, be single? And I struggled a bit with that. To be honest, I didn't ever get an answer, a straight out perfect answer for that.
Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12 says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken.
Yeah, I have that verse on my home in my bedroom. in our room. And I think it's so important to have God in your relationship because it strengthens you. And without it, you're weak without that. And, 42% of, I don't think this is a correct statistic now, but 42% of marriages end in divorce. And Christian marriages are into that statistic too. And, it's so hard. Marriage is so much harder than people say. Actually, personally, I've experienced it to be really actually quite easy, which is against the stereotype, but there is difficult times. But what I find works for me and my husband is that, our baseline is what would Jesus do? Our baseline is the Bible and, the love of Christ that he shows us, the sacrificial, humble kind of love, the respectful kind of love. And, we always know that we can talk things through and that's the baseline. It's not one person's truth in the relationship that is right and arguments can spiral. It's like you can use the Bible as a base. And so that's how we've got through things well. But I think if you don't use that, then, it's really hard, I think, marriages.
It's also important to say that although that verse is saying about 3 chords, that 1 chord isn't hopeless.
Yeah,
one chord is not completely useless and they need another person.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that.
Think about flossing. It's pretty strong.
True.
Go on.
Well,
think about flossing.
Isn't flossing like 1 chord? If it was many, it would hurt your teeth.
What an interest.
Wow,
that was so
analogy.
deep.
Whoa.
I completely do not understand it. It was either a really deep thing or it was really rubbish.
Can we go
I'm
with
not
really
quite
deep,
sure
please?
which
If
one
you
yet.
can give me 2.
That's okay. Interesting. Right, okay. So,
I'm speechless.
apart from flossing your teeth with 1 chord rather than 3, what else have we learnt in conclusion? I want a point from all of us here. First of all, let's go to Faith.
I will say, okay, so from a singles perspective, it's to be happy where you're at. So be satisfied where you're at and also include God in every decision you make. This is not having a religious mentality. It's just saying, God, I acknowledge you're here and I hope you remain with me throughout the journey of my life. And even it's nice to be with married couples and to hear their beginnings to where they are right now and to know that God has to be the center. I think that's always been one of my things as well, is that whoever I do meet, I do want Christ to be at the center because my parents were married for 50 years. And for me, I saw God at every part of the stage of their lives, when they were separated, even like now, to even when they were together. So I feel like in all of it, it's just to remember that as a single person, you're not alone, even though physically it may seem that way, but you're really not alone, and that you can endure through all the different stereotypes and the peer pressures of the world, to know that you matter. And most of all, to just know that it's okay to be where you're at and to still have hope, because there is hope out there. Yeah.
Adrian.
So is this something I've learned or something
Something that you've learnt from this podcast or some sort of advice that you'd like to give?
Do you know what? As you were talking, I just was thinking of so many different things. I think we've touched on a lot of different points. I guess one of the greatest things is to know that you're loved, and ultimately it comes from God, and letting that in yourself, and you don't need a partner for that. And I think that's a journey to go on, and the whole thing about, like we said before, about you're not a half a person, be the whole person and focus on that, and then you can bring 2 wholes together, like you said.
Yeah.
And Fern.
I think God puts desires in your heart and you get guided by your relationship with God. And for me, I wanted to find a partner, and it eventually transpired that I managed to find an amazing guy, and he has made me really, really happy. And I also see I learn a lot about Christ because of the marriage, because there's lots of marriage analogies and metaphors in the Bible actually as well, and it's Jesus turned water into wine at a marriage. That's the first miracle he did. He obviously marriages were okay with him. And we see it in the Bible. It's a thing to be celebrated as well. And so I actually had a lot of guilt about saying, is it okay that I want a partner? Because but then I think we're just human too, and he did create it. But also I'm grateful for the time that I was single as well, because it was an exceptional time where I was able to do certain things. And in fact, when we went on tour at the very beginning in the tour van and just living off noodles and all sorts. You know, not having a partner then was kind of good for both of us, actually. We're both single at the start, weren't we? And it just enabled us to throw ourselves fully into touring, and that was really fun. And if we had partners, you know, maybe we would have been pulling away from that. And having relationships alongside our music has worked. God, like only God can work out, but it's worked well in time. But at the start, it suited it good that we didn't have partners then.
Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you to Faith as well. And if you would like to keep up with future episodes, then all you need to do is to go to our website, ucb.co.uk/notplayingthegame, or the hashtag, you'll never guess what that is, hashtag not playing the game.
Oh, yes.